This is episode 96, and on today's episode, our guest will be talking about how his story ended up in chicken soup for the soul. You're going to hear him talk about how this is possible, if not chicken soup of the soul for you, but something similar. Here is a sample of what you are in for today.
My whole world, my whole life was just completely crumbled to the ground. So everything I had known, the house that I owned, the marriage was gone, everything was gone, the career, obviously that was my choice. But then it was to give up my daughters, my family. And that was the hardest thing for me to do, Kingsley, because inside of, I believe, each father, we have this belief that if we leave that house and we step out of that home, somebody else will come in there and take our place.
Take our place. There can be an incredible force that keeps us from doing things or experiencing some great things in our lives. You'll hear more of what our guest had to say in this episode. Stay tuned. This is the home of the Score Big movement, and you're listening to the world-renowned The Midlife Launch. And you are going to get tips and resources that will help you as a person in transition in midlife to pursue your dream and make it a reality. The format of this show will comprise of monologues and interviews and case studies of people who are just like you trying to do the very same thing. I'm your host, your coach, and your Sherpa in this journey. You said, Kingsley, what's a Sherpa? A Sherpa is simply someone who doesn't know everything, who is learning some things and helping someone else to learn what they've learned. So it's almost like one step ahead of the other person following behind. So as your host, your coach, and your Sherpa, we will today be discovering what it is that will help you to launch that which is bursting out on the inside or you have not yet discovered. Your dream life at midlife. Stay tuned. It's your midlife, talking about midlife. It's your dream life, talking about dream life. It's the show that teaches all you need to know to live your dream while bringing in the dough. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining me again on this show. And as I've said in the past and still say today, you could be doing anything at this moment other than listening to this podcast. And I'm so grateful that you've chosen to listen to the Midlife Launch. You can't do two things as far as listening at the same time. Let me say effectively, right? So if you're multitasking and listening, you have chosen this, and I'm grateful, and I just can't say enough about that. You make this possible, okay? So thank you. One of the ways that you make this possible is by you going to iTunes and leaving me a rating and a review. That helps the show to be found by those who are looking for something like this, which you are benefiting from. And your vote, basically by giving me a rating and a review, helps to make the show visible. Actually, it put it up in the rankings, and then people can find it and as quickly as they need it. So you help me in that regards. As a matter of fact, here is what it may sound like, as someone have also left me a review and a rating recently, and that is subscribeme.fm. Gave me the 5-star and said, fantastic show. Kingsley is an immensely talented host and speaker. His experience in psychology and counseling makes the show very compelling and engaging. Thank you, subscribeme.fm, for that review and rating. And you, my friend, as you're listening, if you've not yet done that, you can do the very same thing by going to themidlifelaunch.com/iTunes. When you open the page, click on the image and then go into iTunes and click on subscribe. Then leave me a rating and a review, something like you heard just now. I would be very appreciative of that. Thank you for taking the time to do that as we together in this community make the Midlife Launch the hottest show on earth. Actually, yes, the hottest show on earth. I was going to say the hottest show internationally, but internationally means on earth, right? So there you go. I thank you again for taking the time to do that. Now it's time to segue. And so here's what we're going to do. Let's get the show started. Our guest today is Vidal Cisneros. And to let you know a little bit about Vidal before we get into the interview is this. This is how he describes himself as a person that years ago, he was a hard-nosed road construction guy. Now, he's letting his multi-passionate personality shine through the rough exterior. He writes for places such as Huffington Post, The Goodman Project, and Chicken Soup for the Soul, and he enjoys traveling. He stated as well that coaching clients in need of aha moments makes his day. And here's what he likes to do. Sitting back and melting s'mores over a campfire with his daughters. He sees that as a blast. And all in all, he's just a regular guy with a purpose-driven heart to serve. That is who you're going to hear from today. Vidal joins me on the Midlife Launch podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping men in the midlife years identify, clarify, and modify their dream so they can do what they love what they do, and get paid doing so. Vidal, thanks for being with us on today's show. How are you doing today, sir?
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm doing outstanding. I'm phenomenal, and I'm completely honored to be on the Midlife Launch. Thank you, Kingsley.
Sure, thanks. So where in the world is Vidal today?
Today, I am located in beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Excuse me for the time being, while it's October, but the winter season is coming. As we know, Wisconsin tends to have a lot of snow during that season. But nonetheless, I love the different seasonal changes here. So yes, Milwaukee, Wisconsin is my home base.
Awesome. So is it that the trees changing colors and all that brilliance of the bursting winter is up on you? I mean, is that happening in Wisconsin right now?
Yes, there's some leaves I have to get off my lawn right now and cut the grass again. But we love it because if you get up high and look over your surroundings, you'll just see some magnificent colors. You're going to see oranges, maroons, browns. So it's a nice sight to see.
See, you're making me very envious right now because I'm here in Florida, in South Florida, and we just have 2 seasons, Vidal, and that is hot and hotter. We don't have it. So unfortunately, we can't say, I can't describe to you the trees. They're all green, and then they'll stay green, and they'll stay green. So at least you're going through those stages, and it's wonderful to see. And which I think really is interesting because it reminds us that there are seasons to life, and all of us have our own seasons, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. So here's a question that I normally ask all my guests, Vidal, and this question is, what do you remember being the dream that you wanted to pursue in life as a child or as a young person?
I love that question. Okay. So as a child, we have these expectations from our parents, right?
Yes.
They want you to be a lawyer, a doctor, XYZ. But what I wanted to be more than anything was get on stage and inspire and motivate. There was something about going to church on Sundays. Actually, I grew up in the private school.
Right.
Private school. So for me, it was twice a week. And after a while, you tend to think, you know what? I think I can do it better than this guy.
Yes.
Right? So from a little kid, I always wanted to inspire. I had this like heroic personality inside of me, and I believe that we all do. And that's pretty much what I wanted to be. Was I wanted to impact the world. In a nutshell, I just knew I wanted to impact the world. I didn't want to play small. I think of that Marianne Williamson quote, if you guys know what I'm talking about, the quote where she says, you have to play up. You have to be, bigger than what you believe you are. So if I could quote that quickly for you guys.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I like that you're putting that piece in there, and I appreciate you looking at the quote up because I think it's really good for us to be reminded sometimes.
Yes. So here it is. So our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. That last part, Kingsley, that is what I've learned. That was kind of like my threshold moment, was when I stepped into the light. So as we go on further, but I love where you're going so far. I love this. This is
also
great.
It's interesting because I remember, Vidal, my mom saying to me, Kingsley, when you were about 12 years old, she said, I wrote a letter because there was a very famous, at the time for me, the preacher that I really admired, and see how he inspired and motivated people. And he had this, international program. And I said to her, she said, I remember me saying to her, she said, much before she died, and she said, my letter was, one day when I grow up, I want to be like him. And in essence, what I was saying is what you're saying. I want to inspire people on a world stage, not knowing what that would look like. And before she died, she said, and I wish I had asked her, because she kept a copy of the letter. I wish I had that today. But I'm hearing your story was something very similar. Someone motivated or inspired you, and you felt like, I wanted to be like that. So did you share that idea with any of your family members or anyone of significance? And what did they say when you may have shared that?
Yes. Well, my mother's always kind of been very stoic, very, how should I say, very... just that person that is more righteous and tries to bear her feelings and not bear the feelings and not be so emotional. Where my father, very supportive. So they're like complete opposites, in a sense. So my father's like, yeah, you can do it. You can do anything you want to do. And as of late, my mother, she just disclosed. She said, because of all the little breakthroughs I've been having lately, she said, when you were a child, I knew you were destined for something. I didn't know what. She said, but I knew it was something. I just didn't tell you.
What was it like hearing that from her at this stage?
Oh, at this stage, wow. It was something that I just, tears started streaming down. As a manly man as I am, as a person that tries to sometimes suppress my feelings, but not anymore.
Yes.
It's you have to release what's inside of you sometimes in a constructive, positive way, and that's exactly what I'm doing now, Kingsley.
So I will hear the story in a few moments, but as I see that progression, so did you then, as you grew up into a young man into adult stage, how were you true to that idea of, okay, I want to inspire? Did you stay on that path, or did you veer off, or what happened? Tell us about how that kind of unfolded.
Yes, I ended up having my first daughter at age 23, and that was actually, she was such a blessing at that time. She helped bring me out of this depression that I believe a lot of us go through, coming out of our teens or in our late teens into our early 20s. We're in an identity crisis. We don't know if we should follow the path that our parents have high expectations for us to follow, or if we should just stay on the less traveled path where it seems like you're lost, but you're chasing after your purpose. So that's been my life mission, is to find my purpose. And as a purpose igniter, this is what I love to do when I get on stage or in front of audiences. And as I progressed here on the path, I ended up starting a career, which was a blessing in disguise. The same week that my daughter was born, I had no job at that point. But that same week, God bless me. I'm telling you, God is good.
Yes.
What happened was, a friend of mine, mutual friends, they helped me land this job where I was working on the freeway. So I was making a very decent living at age 23, where I became very extremely comfortable. So what did I do for my dreams? It put them on hiatus for a while because I was doing so great. But then something else happened. There's these awakening moments where in the darkness, there's this light that begins to shimmer, and it wants out again. It wants to come out, and that's kind of what happened during my midlife crisis, so to speak.
And as I kind of knew a little bit of your background here, Vidal, I know that you had you've gone through a divorce, and but you also were in a construction field where you kind of labeled yourself as this tough guy, and that was even, I'm wondering, how did you, because that didn't really fit the profile of the person who wanted to inspire the world, because it kept you into a limited setting where you had to go to work and do the 9 to 5, and I'm wondering how inside of you were feeling like, man, this is not what I signed up for, this is not what I see myself doing. How did you work through all of that?
Kingsley, it was not easy. Not easy by any means. As I was growing up in my 20s, and I came out of depression, and the blessing came with the birth of my daughter, which gave me a purpose, right? It gave me direction to get up in the morning and provide. Then I took on a new identity. Okay, so that's the funny thing is, if we don't choose an identity, the surroundings will choose that identity for us.
I like that. I like that. If we don't choose an identity, our surrounding will choose an identity for us. I love that.
So then what transpired was I took on the identity of my coworkers. Now, we kind of have the stereotype of what they appear like. They're tough, hard-nosed. They suppress their feelings. The typical blue-collar construction
right.
Guy. So I felt to be in that circle, that is the way I had to act. But I resisted in the beginning, and they laughed. Mm-hmm. I'd say, hey, I like this kind of music. And they look at me weird. Oh, really? That's not what we like over here. They like looking at certain type of magazines. They're like, you don't have these magazines? No, I don't need to look at that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So I resisted in the beginning, but that's the thing is I stayed in that zone, and I didn't step out, and I didn't find a stronger support system where I could fulfill the dreams that I wanted. But I had a destination. I had in my mind this date. So there was this big project. It was called the Marquette Interchange Project here in downtown Milwaukee. It's the largest to date in the state of Wisconsin, and I had the privilege to be on that for the full 5 years, which very few construction companies were on that project the whole time.
Right.
So moving forward, I knew at the end of that project, after those 5 years, that was my time. That was my expiration date for this career. I said, that's it. And I would tell the guys at work, I'd say, hey, if I'm still here after 2008, please take me out to the back. Shoot me and bury me. Because I'm dead either way. It's like I'm a lifer. And they would joke. They're like, nah, Vidal, you're a lifer. You're a lifer. I was like, no. Don't get me wrong. Just because I love what I do does not mean this is my purpose in life. So then that catapulted a decision where the year was there. The season was winding down, and I was working 90 plus hours. I kid you not, Kingsley. This is a hard thing for people to fathom. But I kid you not, I would come home, take a 2-3 hour nap, get up, shower, pop in some Excedrin, some Monster, whatever would keep me up. It's a lot of vitamins.
Yes.
And at the time, I was running a crew, and I would have my crew do the same thing, along with drinking protein shakes. So there was like this concoction of good and bad, and we sustained for 2 to 3 weeks working. Well, I sustained for 2 to 3 weeks working 90 hours, but the whole crew is an average. We averaged about 60 to 70 hours that summer.
Wow.
And after I saw, Kingsley, that I could work 3 weeks straight, 90 plus hours, I stepped back and I said, what is stopping me from doing anything else.
Wow. Yes.
So that was kind of like the last push. It's almost if you can imagine that, and this is something I saw in my coworkers. One of my coworkers, he would say, "I'm going to lose weight," but before he lost the weight, he would just binge out. He would go to buffets. He would put on all this weight until he felt just so terrible, so just disgusted with his appearance. Then he lost the weight. So that was in essence what I did that last season. I worked so much and I pushed myself so much and I sacrificed so much that it also it pretty much was one of the straws that broke the camel's back in my marriage. But it also catapulted me transitioning from that construction career to chasing my dream, which was not an easy thing for me to do, but I did it. And when I broke out of that comfort zone and into a new one, I felt so much weight off me, Kingsley. It was just phenomenal.
Did you have, because I kind of went through something very similar when I transitioned in 2008, of course, the same year like you're describing. Ooh. And I know at that point, for me, after 21 years, I went through a struggle because I knew that there's something that I must need to step into that would get me where I really need to go and where I felt my dream and my destiny was. But somehow I felt to get across that ocean to get there was some, intrepidation, some doubts, some fears. At that moment, I was about to pull the trigger. I know I need to do that, but I went through a struggle. And I'm wondering, how were you at that time emotionally and mentally? Because you know that time had come to step out. Was that just an easy step from where you were to where you wanted to be, or did you also struggle like I did? How was that for you?
Yes, absolutely. I struggled because the conditioning had been inside of me for 10 years. So just think of a needle on a record, how the grooves, how embedded those habits are. And those were hard habits to break. And I'm going to be honest, till this day, I still drive past and I see my ex-coworkers and I miss that. And that is the old conditioning that I used to have. But absolutely, I had to break out of that paradigm. Once I broke out of that paradigm, I was excited because I hired a success coach. So I hired this mentor that was extremely successful. And that is when things started taking off. But then at the same time, that is where a new storm, the biggest storm I've ever come across in my life, was unfolding. And out of that was the incubation for the biggest transformation that I've ever gone through in my entire life so far.
It's like you're describing, Vidal, a path, even though our storms were different. Because after I resigned my position in 2008 of June, my biggest storm came 6 months later. I went through a quadruple bypass surgery. I was trying to be my client in my new business, my client base in my new business. And the last thing I expected happened 6 months later. I was laid in the hospital, my chest open, and really had to have a bypass and then recovery several months afterwards. So my, 6 to 9 months, it was really a storm. So that I had to kind of come back from. But I know your storm was a bit different. So what was your storm like, and how did you come through that?
Oh, wow, Kingsley, I appreciate you for sharing that. That is something that I can't imagine, going through that triple bypass surgery. But I'm glad, obviously, you're in great health right now.
Yes, I am, thank God.
Amen. So what really helped transform me was the new conditioning that my success coach and mentors helped me reprogram and rewire my mindset. That is how I got through the storm. So before the storm hit, I was already preparing for it, not knowing that it was going to come. And that is where you just have to believe that as soon as you step out and you take action, that the people that are supposed to be in your path, they will come. I like to sometimes reference the hero's journey. If you're familiar with, I forget his name, Joseph, I can't think of his name. But anyways, the hero's journey it's a story structure that you can find in a lot of old books as far as can't remember, like Greek mythology. So Joseph Campbell took the story structure from these Greek mythologies, and there's other storylines like in Star Wars. So, for example, Luke, first he had to step out of his comfort zone, his world. Then he stepped into a new world, but people were telling him that there's something in you, like the force is in you. You're destined for something bigger. Like people were telling him, right? And then his mentor, Obi-Wan, he showed up and he guided him. And that's exactly what happened during that time, prepared me for that fight against each villain, which would be Darth Vader would be the greatest one. So before you can slay the dragon, as you know, you can use this metaphor as a dragon, Darth Vader. And for me, it was slaying my greatest fears of my whole world, my whole life was just completely crumbled to the ground. So everything I had known, the house that I owned, the marriage was gone, everything was gone, the career, obviously that was my choice. But then it was to give up my daughters, my family. And that was the hardest thing for me to do, Kingsley, because inside of, I believe, each father, we have this belief that if we leave that house and we step out of that home, somebody else will come in there and take our place.
Right.
I had to completely shut down that belief. I had to crush it. So that was the biggest hurdle stopping me from success, was until I got over that, because that was the main reason why I got married. I got married because I wanted a house that had my daughters under it, a house that had my wife. I did not want to be not with my daughters in the same house. So I had to let go of that. And finally, when I said, I am going to show up, Kingsley, I'm going to show up every day and nobody's going to take my place, because I am the father. I was there from day one. I saw them be born, and I will not give up my time. I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to call them. I'm going to be a present father. And that is what I believe a lot of fathers, sometimes we fail to do when we go through a separation or divorce. But I'm going to tell you, it was the best thing for me, Kingsley. It's allowed this dream chasing that I've been undergoing for years to unfold, because I can spend time with my daughters in any which way that I choose. And I'm closer than I ever was before with them. You know, before as a married father, I'd kind of say, okay, yeah, just go with your mom and her family, do your thing. And in my family, they're stuck in the back burner, you know? So now they know both sides of the family like they never did before. See, you have to shift your perspective. That's exactly what I did in that moment. So sorry if I'm getting long-winded, Kinsley.
No, I think you're really, because you're kind of sharing something that I believe has pivoted or helped to pivot you to where you're at. Because and I appreciate you sharing the story, which I'll have links of in the show notes. But about in your writings, the Good Men Project, you wrote about your divorce and what happened, about your wife and all that dark parts of your experience, but also in your story being told in Chicken Soup of the Soul, because I know that you have this in that new a new book that's coming out. Your story is told in there, so I think all of that is now positioned you for what it is you have been going after. So I know that I saw your picture of the book, and tell me, how did that come about where you're now? You're an author, of course. You've been writing before that. You've been writing for Good Men Project, and then Huffington Post, and so on. How's all that unfolding for you?
Yes, God's been good to me, and connecting with the right coaches, the right mentors has completely transformed that part of my business. So one day I looked up submissions. I Googled websites that need submissions or submissions for stories. So up came the Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yes.
I clicked that link. I went to their website. I saw that they're always looking for stories, and there was a deadline that was in 2 days.
Oh, wow.
So at that time, my writing coach, she said, "Okay, what'd you submit to?" And I said, "Okay, I submitted to Chicken Soup for the Soul. I just need somebody to edit for me," because I had hired her that month. She said, "Send it to me. Let's edit it and let's get it in." And I was like, wow, it was like almost less than 48 hours, and she was willing to put that work in because she's a professional editor and ghostwriter. So, oh man, that was amazing just to have that opportunity to be comfortable with condensing my story down to 1,200 words, which was not easy for me, Kingsley.
Imagine.
So once that happened back this year in April of 2015, I waited months and months and months till finally I got the email from the editors at Chicken Soup for the Soul and some of the co-authors, and they said, you know what, you've passed the first stage, only 1% get through this stage. Wow. So yes, your story is powerful and we'd like to have it in the book.
Wow.
That sent shockwaves just down to every part of my body. I was like, I can't believe this. And I still couldn't believe it until this week when I saw it in the store.
Wow. That's awesome. And congratulations on that huge achievement. And I applaud your, stick-to-itiveness and resilience to, and also to act when you had an opportunity, because here you are 48 hours to submit an article to at least be considered, and it's taking action. I find sometimes many people miss an opportunity because they didn't take action at the time that they needed to, and somehow we wallow in where we're at because we blame this, we blame that. But the question is, have we taken that step? And you took that step, and now you are positioned, of course, in that book, but also it opens opportunity for your name to become that international, as you described earlier, take it to the international stage. So as we're kind of moving into that down landing position here, I'm wondering, Vidal, for you at this stage, how do you want to be remembered? Because as you're now, writing and you're speaking and you're getting ready for the big stage, really, how do you want to be remembered?
Great question, Kingsley. And I think of my daughters, and I think of past, generations in the future that are yet to be born, and I want to leave a manual, in essence, for them, so they can read what not to do.
Yes, that's important.
Or what to do. That's the legacy that I want to leave. And for anybody else that's going through the struggles, going through, the separation, the divorce, the incarceration, I served 6 months time, and I don't want people thinking that that's something that's going to hold you back. I have minimal education. Everything that you can think of that would shackle most people, I've pushed through it. And then some, Kingsley. Wow. So that's what I want my legend to be, in essence.
Wow. But I appreciate you sharing that in so succinct a manner, because I think as my audience listening in is hearing that, you know what, you just kind of give them hope. Because here is someone who has gone through such incredible challenges and the storm you described, but yet you have found a way to push through, which really is similar saying that no excuse idea. As you're listening right now, I'm saying to you, what's your excuse? What have you gone through? How are you able to take that story and let it work for you rather than have it work against you? You've heard Vidal today shared how he's doing that and how it's pushing him in a position for greatness and for that big platform which is awaiting him. Vidal, as I like to ask this question also, what are you working on today, and that you want my audience to hear that they might be interested in, and how to best contact you as they've listened to your story?
Actually, if I could, Kingsley, I'd like to offer your audience at the Midlife Launch, I'd like to offer everybody a gift of my story that's featured in Chicken Soup for the Soul. I want to gift that to your audience, if I may.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing that.
So if right now you go to vidalcisnerosjr.com/midlife launch, you go there, and I will have that gift for you, because I want somebody right now to not have, maybe doesn't have the money to buy the book and not read the story or be inspired, because Chicken Soup for the Soul inspired me when I was at my bottom, when I was incarcerated. And I was going through alcoholism, and I was going through other storms. And that book inspired me. So now, full circle, I'm in the book. So I don't want to shortchange anybody out there from this same experience. So I want to gift that. So again, vidalcisnerosjr.com/midlife launch.
Thank you so much for making it available. And I'll have the links in the show notes, and you'll be able to access that. You'll go there, click on the link. It'll take you right to that page, and you can get this free gift. What a great offer that you can hear this man's story of how he has pushed through. And I myself is looking forward to reading that. I know a backdrop of his story so far, but just reading that portion he's allowing, as making available, I think that you need to jump on that as today, not wait, just today. Go to the show notes and you'll be able to link on that to where he has this offer for you. Vidal, let me say thank you. On behalf of the Midlife Launch community, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today and sharing your story in such a transparent and making yourself so vulnerable. And authenticity is what we're all about, and you've just delivered that today. So thank you, sir.
The honor's all mine. Thank you so much. It's been a privilege. Thank you, Kingsley.
Thank you, sir. Awesome. And there you have it, my friend. As you listened to Vidal sharing his story, I hope you were intrigued, inspired, and ready to take action. Because it's not just about being intrigued and inspired. What good is that if you don't do something about what it is you heard? I believe that Vidal was, in a sense, saying to you and to me that if it could happen to me, if I could do this, so could you, or so can you. And I hope that you have a plan in place today of what the next first thing is it that you're going to do. Could it be that you're going to write an article? That article being put aside or put it on hold or procrastinating on? Is it that you're going to do a networking event? Could it be that you're going to make that phone call? Could it be that you're going to launch a first product? Could it be that you're going to hire a coach or a mentor or get involved in that next, whatever it might be? I hope that you do that today, because if you don't do something, guess what? Nothing ain't going to happen, my friend. So I hope today was a moment, an aha moment for you. If you need some help and in shaping all of this, and Vidal can help you, remember you can find the links in the show notes at themidlifelaunch.com/096 or themidlifelaunch.com/Vidal, Vidal. I hope that you will go there and get the free gift he offered you today. Make sure you find that, click on that, and get that downloaded, because it's going to be very helpful. All right? With that said, it's time to say peace out, God bless, and I'll see you on the flip side. Yeah.